Welcome back to SOD TV's Daily Warcraft Log Update video. Today's leaderboard shows some major movement, so let's dive right into it. Today's balanced Druid leaderboard has seen some exciting changes. Katsi from Wild Growth EU in the Overload Guild has surged to the top with a DPS of 941.0, dethroning Adriu, who held the one spot for 4 days. In second place, we have Lao Qianju Po from Gulang TW in the Nerf Shadow Club Guild with a DPS of 938.5. And Hotmas from Living Flame EU in the 99 Guild is hot on their heels with a DPS of 936.0. Let's not forget the rest of today's top 10: Adriu, Sharkifa, Ebenflow, AI Guashao D, Jacuzalord, FPS, and Garlic Soap. Today's Feral Druid leaderboard sees BGT from Beef Bar maintaining the top spot for the 5th consecutive day, now with an impressive DPS of 1,509.9. Parspolice from Silver Saga remains in second place with a DPS of 1,481.2. Breaking into the top 3 is Talon from Inevitable, representing Crusader Strike US with a DPS of 1,394.5. Shout out to the rest of today's top 10: Exirel, Lil Claws, Lawsuit, Qiangjing QI, Si Xiao Yao Jini Er, Jini, and Abuffuf. Next, we're spotlighting the top 3 Guardian Druids. For the 12th day in a row, Jini from Crusader Strike US holds the one spot with an impressive DPS of 845.2. Climbing to second place is Ankler from Living Flame EU with a DPS of 801.1. Sudu Apjit, also from Living Flame EU, maintains a strong presence at third place with a DPS of 786.0. Let's give a shout out to the rest of today's top 10 Cadet Druid: Opjamalgal, Figjam, Ozerks, Imsbury, Breakcore, and Shilandril. There's been a shakeup in the top 3 melee hunters. Tree Ranger from Living Flame US has taken the lead with a DPS of 1,622.3, dethroning Olgi, who held the top spot for 4 days. Cornshot from Living Flame EU holds steady at second with a DPS of 1,570.0, and Tenokid from Crusader Strike US enters the top 3 with a DPS of 1,531.1. The remaining top 10 are Olgi, Zatara, Fuxalu, Boshane Dai Chongwu, Yav Yav, Yang Lachichi, and Ulfadin. Next, let's check out today's top 3 ranged hunters in the Season of Discovery. Fate from Living Flame EU in the Guild Headhunter holds the one spot for the 6th day in a row, now with a DPS of 1,264.1. Kopromisi from Living Flame EU, Guild Sipan Kalasura, has moved up to 2 with a DPS of 1,242.1. New to the top 3 is Mihurith from Crusader Strike US, Guild Degenerates, with a DPS of 1,238.4. Congratulations to these players. And a shout out to the rest of today's top 10 Aerosparks: Soggy, Multigummies, Fragmaster, Waffles, iWork Apparel, and Mike. In today's top 3 Arcane Mages, Cuties from Living Flame EU continues to reign supreme for the 2nd day, now with a DPS of 729.7. Muju from Gulang TW in the Guild Duye Plus has moved up to 2nd place with a DPS of 660.5, and Mohaxo from Crusader Strike US drops to 3rd with a DPS of 637.9. A quick mention to the remaining top 10 greats: Digidu, Aluriel, Wara, and Mage Kapow and May. Delano from Crusader Strike US in the Guild Parse holds the top spot for the 6th consecutive day for Fire Mages, now with a DPS of 1,213.5. Walter Frosch from Chaos Bolt EU in the Guild Blessedhead has moved up to 2nd place with a DPS of 1,157.0, and now Lol from Living Flame EU in the Guild None of the Above remains in the top 3, now at 3rd place with a DPS of 1,147.5. The rest of today's top 10 are Soja, Galander, Hookdreefer, Puff 8, Arsongso, Beihu Quan Shiren, and Gan Gansi. Peter Ledrug from Living Flame EU continues his reign at number 1 for Frost Mages, now with a DPS of 1,019.3. He's held this top spot for 2 consecutive days. New to the top 3 are Balasto from Living Flame EU with a DPS of 983.7, and Wo Kei Nai from Gulang TW with a DPS of 982.1. A quick mention of the rest of today's top 10: Sadaka, TDMZ, Black Saint, Najah Johnson, Goody Blaster, Zarg, and Astronomical. For the 4th consecutive day, Fut from Shengming Lian TW holds the top spot in the Protection Paladin category, now with a DPS of 1,231.0. Close behind is Farvold from Living Flame EU at 1195.4 DPS. New to the top 3 is Maglish from Living Flame EU in the guild Salad Bakers, boasting a DPS of 1189.2. The remaining top 10 are One Punch, Masi, Perf, Juju, Baruch, Visur, and Code Pink. Let's check out the Retribution Paladin leaderboard in the Season of Discovery. Yesterday's champ, Makshia from Wild Growth EU, Guild Dragonslayers, has been dethroned after a 3-day reign, now at 2, with a DPS of 1328.1. Taking the crown is Tekdek from Crusader Strike US, Guild Get Carried, with a DPS of 1364.8. Still holding third is Elf Chapo from Living Flame US, Guild Cartel, with a DPS of 1315.0. A quick mention to the rest of today's top 10 Muse: Budarizard, Garistan, Quiyu, Yidfra, Gypsarella, and Sidore. Today's top Shadow Priest is Zhongwu Guzu from Shengming Laiyan TW in the Guild Paqi Yuma Play, skyrocketing to a DPS of 900.8. Following closely is Scary Ghost from Wild Growth US in the Guild Haha JKK, unless with a DPS of 893.7. Sweaty Flaps from Lone Wolf EU in the Guild Power Overwhelming takes third with a DPS of 884.3. Yesterday's leader, Kasipu, has been dethroned after holding the 1 spot for a day. The rest of today's top 10 are Blacklisted Q, Birdrub, Luluxiao Nai Tang, Tisinya Siabi, Sambar, and Fate. Ajanin from Living Flame US in the Guild Cartel continues to dominate the DPS Rogue category, holding the 1 spot for the 3rd consecutive day with an impressive DPS of 1481.7. Mighty from Living Flame EU in the Guild Summers has climbed to 2 with a DPS of 1474.0, and Yams from Lone Wolf EU in the Guild Threat enters the top 3 with a DPS of 1444.5. The remaining top 10 are Umarin, Aiziro, Mizug, Minamuyusa, Rochella, Grarke, and Da Bai 2, Nai Tang. Hakwin from Wild Growth EU in Nuspam Guild continues to dominate as the 1-tank rogue for another day, now with an impressive DPS of 1012.0. Sketcher from Crusader Strike US in We the Apis Guild holds the 2nd spot, upping his game to 987.3 DPS. Newcomer to the top 3 is Nerf Assassin from Gulang TW in the Nerf Shadow Club Guild, boasting a DPS of 952.2. The remaining top 10 are Lit, Lesrance, Jingji Jingqi, What a Champ, Nova, Kuasa, and Orosaber. Let's jump into the Elemental Shaman leaderboard. For the 6th day running, Rumbles from Wild Growth EU in the Guild Last Chance retains the top spot, now with an impressive DPS of 1008.7. Climbing to 2nd place is Relax from Lone Wolf EU in the Guild Ego, delivering a DPS of 968.8. Fae Dianse from Shengming Laiyan TW in the Guild Fang Yi Xingzi holds steady in 3rd with a DPS of 967.5. Rounding out the top 10, we have Zeus, Zorlak, Sap, Bandages, Gag, Cheez-Its, and Maoju 2. Today's top 3 Enhancement Shamans have seen a shift. Bozidar from Living Flame EU in the Guild Summers takes the lead with a DPS of 1483.0. NA, yesterday's leader, holds 2nd place with a DPS of 1439.5. Tapped from Chaos Bolt EU in the Guild Blessed rounds out the top 3 with a DPS of 1438.9. The remaining top 10 are Sunisham, Balgiandol, Mahatu, Barsni, Sunny Sea, Cryptenhance, and Flail. Nay's reign at the top lasted 2 days, a testament to his skill. Next, let's talk about the top tank shaman players. Nightsong from Living Flame EU in the Guild Summers holds the 1 spot for the 3rd day in a row, now with an impressive DPS of 1005.9. In 2nd place, we have Shamrib from Lone Wolf US in the Guild Bread Inc., improving his DPS to 748.4. New to the top 3 is Nima Toyboy from Living Flame EU with a DPS of 716.6. Let's not forget the rest of the top 10 Salfar, Vistalo, Calm, Jaw, Shanti, Weebri, and Shimiraj. Today's top 3 DPS Warlock players are Taco from Shadowstrike AU maintaining the 1 position for the 3rd day with a DPS of 1216.9, Strawberry from Living Flame EU with a DPS of 1188.3, and a new entry, Matra from Lone Wolf US in the Guild Lethal with a DPS of 1170.9. The remaining top 10 include Birang Wo La Ren, Pichipopo, Jusamlok, Buzzwall, Slurpdeput, Enigmzex, and Versa. In the Tank Warlock category, Enigmzex from Living Flame EU Guild Pepitant continues to dominate, now with a DPS of 1128.6, holding the top spot for 3 days in a row. Dinosaur from Wild Growth US Guild Golden Girls follows in second place, improving to a DPS of 988.9. Flogo from Shadow Strike AU Guild Constriction maintains third place, now with a DPS of 933.1. The remaining top 10 for today are T, Krell, Saibu, Vervain, Jalapena, Lobster, and Arkimo. We've got some changes in the Fury Warrior category of Season of Discovery. Jia Qigege from Gulang TW has taken the lead with a DPS of 1626.1. Obi-Wan Kenoly from Crusader Strike US in the Guild Stand-In on Business is now in second place with a DPS of 1603.4. And MFX from Crusader Strike US in the Guild Dream is close behind at third with a DPS of 1601.1. Yesterday's champion, Alondo, after holding the top spot for 4 days, has moved to the 4th position. The rest of the top 10 are Freds, Kais2, Atasmos, Phimosis, Snacks, and Qi Huang de Baojian. Today's top 3 tank warriors have shifted. At 1, we have Giegege from Gulang TW with a DPS of 1626.1. In second place, Obi-Wan Kenoly from Crusader Strike US in the Guild Stand-In on Business with a DPS of 1603.4. And at 3, MFX from Crusader Strike US in the Guild Dream, delivering a DPS of 1601.1. Yesterday's champion, Alondo, has dropped to 4th place. The rest of today's top 10 are Freds, Kais2, Atasmos, Phimosis, Snacks, and Qi Huang de Baojian. Stay tuned for tomorrow's video to see who will reign supreme this phase. Please like and subscribe if you want to see more daily content like this. Thank you all for watching.